how's it going, YouTube? So, buying a used guitar. Pawn shops, private deal, where you can see, touch, listen, and inspect the sucker thoroughly, okay? I don't want to talk to you guys about eBay or Craigslist or any of those other places. If you've got a place, like we have one called Kijiji, okay, where buy, sell, trade, everybody in the whole damn country's in on it, right? It's a really huge, massive place to buy, sell, and trade stuff. One of the warnings they give you on these boards is, hey, it's buyer beware, boys and girls. If you get screwed, don't crab at us because we're not here for that. We're here to allow you to advertise your stuff for people to buy, sell, trade, whatever. Okay, there we go. So, when you buy privately, you got no recourses. Not even the long arm of the law can help your butt out of it. Okay, so you screw up, your problem. Same with pawn shops. You screw up, your problem. I'm here to help you to not screw up, so hang out so you can learn something about how to buy a used guitar, what to look for, so that you may or may not buy that guitar. Or you may still want it because you may have some skills to do work. That's fine too. It's still your call in the end. It's your money. So let's get started and try and make this quick and painless and not keep you here for an hour. Now, one of the things I'm always after is tuners, and this is the only style of tuner that I really like, other than of course Grover's and other higher quality brands of the same type of tuner. This is my thing, okay? And I've always liked these. I've never once had a problem with them, so that's my thing. But you can pick whatever tuners you like, and if you like open backs, fine. If you like closed backs, fine. I don't care, it's up to you. I look at the tuners and the condition of the tuners. I check them, make sure they're not bent, so that I don't have to replace stuff. That's a huge thing. Next thing I do is I check the nut for any kind of damage. Now, a lot of people like to put stupidly fat strings on their guitars, which is dumb, okay? But some people like that. Well, guess what? A lot of these solid body electric guitars, because that's what we're talking about today, is solid body electrics only, okay? They're not designed to handle thicker strings. Why? Because if they were, they would sit in just as nice and pretty as these ones sit into the nut. But they don't. They stick up. They're not made for the guitar, and you can wreck your guitar. Okay? Also, they're not going to tune very well because they're going to get caught up a lot, and it's going to act like a saw blade in there. And then when you do try and go back to lighter gauge strings, you're screwed. You need a new nut. Really worth the hassle? Not thinking it is. When I bought this guitar, this is my little pawn shop gem. I paid 59 bucks for this Ibanez. I got lucky, even though the guy who originally had this threw on a set of fatter gauge strings. That's probably, he thought maybe I need bigger strings so it'll tune better. I don't know what he was thinking, but whatever. Got lucky, no damage to the nut. Okay, so I was like, whew, because this is a lefty and it's hard to find left-handed nuts without getting them custom made. And that can cost a few bucks, and I wasn't prepared for that because I didn't want to have to do that. I don't know how to make a nut yet, and I don't know how to replace frets yet, but I am going to learn all these skills this year. Anyways, so tuners, nut. Okay, next we're going to talk to you about the fretboard. Doesn't matter what the material is for the fretboard. It could be maple, ebony, rosewood, don't care, don't matter. Make sure that it's not splintering all apart, okay? Make sure there's no missing inlays. If there's inlays missing, that affects the price. Doesn't really affect how well the guitar plays, but it looks horrid if you got missing stuff, and good luck finding new inlays, unless the company who makes the guitar has some spares in the back room somewhere that they can sell you to glue back in, and you're going to need the proper glue. And yeah, it's just, just pick your battles wisely on guitars, okay? But make sure that everything is the way it should be. If the fretboard looks really worn out and dug into, I walk away instantaneously. Fret wire, okay? These are your actual frets, by the way. So if I tell you to put your first finger on the second fret of the first string, I'm telling you this, and guess what? That is also the second fret. This is the block. This is the fret, okay? But you don't put your finger on the fret itself, on the wire. You put it on the backside, in behind. Okay, so this is your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on, all right? And each one of these corresponding blocks in front of it directly is the actual fret to indicate that. So that's how we talk about frets. Fret wire is actually the fret. And if these things are full of dings and divots, if they're scratched all to be hell and they're unlevel and widened out and gross looking, chances are you got a really bad fret job on this guitar that is worn out. Okay, bad frets. If you don't have frets, you don't have a guitar. Whew. Out to the fire pit she goes, boys. All right, so you got to decide, okay, am I going to take this guitar in and get it refretted? What kind of money could you expect to pay for a guitar to be completely refretted? Okay, well, completely refretted depends on how many frets you got. This is a 22, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Hey, I was wrong, 24 frets. Okay, so 24 times 22 bucks per fret, that adds up big, doesn't it? The guitar didn't sell for that much new. Okay, this is under $300 new. Okay, so it's not worth refretting it. Okay, what about fixing maybe 5 frets? Well, sure, but what do you do with the rest of them if you got other baffed ones? Think about it, okay? No frets, no guitar, firewood. Okay, now, fat fret guitars with medium fat frets, or medium jumbos they call them, or jumbo frets, or jumbo fats, okay, because every company has their idea of what they are, versus skinny little frets. Okay, skinny little frets dent easier, wear out faster. You'll find those guitars have an excessive amount of fretboard wear too, because your fingers are always touching and contacting the frets as far as the fretboard goes, okay, when you're doing notes and stuff. Because skinny little frets, you can do the death grip and not knock it out of tune. This thing, you do the death grip, and it sounds like crap because you're not supposed to be pressing that hard on this style of a guitar, okay? So any guitars that come with medium or jumboed or anything to do with the word fat fret, okay, these are guitars where when you push down properly to make a note, the string will never ever come in contact with the fretboard, ever, okay? So that's just the way it works, that's the way it is. These things operate differently than guitars with skinny necks. So no death grips, okay? Properly executed chord on one of these things, you don't have to touch it very hard, okay? Now if you squeeze harder, it sounds like crap. It's going, it sounds like it's out of tune when really it's not. It's fine. You're squeezing too hard. And people who squeeze too hard, a lot of people don't realize, I guess maybe because they're tone deaf or something, but what happens is they will damage even these kind of frets by squeezing too hard. These frets will last like for years, even doing a lot of string bending, because they barely wear out at all because you're barely touching them. You know, and generally the material these are made out of is a really strong alloy, whether it be hard nickel, soft nickel, or a lot of iron, okay, with a few other little alloys in there. These are all good types of frets. Brass frets, if you find any guitar with brass or bronze frets on them, walk away. Actually, better yet, run like hell, because these are guitars, those frets are garbage. The guitar is total garbage. And yeah, it's probably even a knockoff if it's got brass frets, okay? Even if it says Fender Strat Mexico on it, brass frets, whoa, scary proposition, man, because I can kill brass frets in 10 hours of light playing, and I did it because I recently got screwed this past year when I bought a J. Tercer acoustic, and they looked like really nice shiny silver, just like this. They looked exactly like this in the store, okay? Beautiful frets, right? I get it home, it played, it played really well, etc. There's a whole story behind this, okay? But the bottom line is within 10 hours of just light duty, a couple of bends here and there, and just general playing, the frets were done. And the company didn't want to come good, none of that. So anyway, point is, I got fooled. I will never ever get fooled again. So you know what one of the tests is you can do even in a pawn shop? Take the guitar, put some pressure down on that string, and rub it like this. Give it a bit of a rub, okay? And then check. And if it starts to look like copper or brass or bronze colored, okay, I would run from that, okay? So now these frets were actually hidden. They were pretty dirty. It was really hard to tell. But I figured, you know, for 60 bucks, I know Ibanez is not going to throw brass on this thing. You know, it's going to be something halfway decent. And I was right, it is. They're good frets. You know, so they did a great job. But, so I had to clean the neck up on this, clean up the frets, you know, fingerboard, had to clean up, you know, everything, set the intonation, that sort of deal. But, you know, I know what I'm looking for, right? So the other thing is look for separation in the wood between the fretboard material and the neck. Well, what if it has a maple neck and a maple fretboard? Well, sometimes you get a guitar that has a straight maple neck, and the fretboard, although it is maple, it's part of the neck itself. It's not a separate slice of maple. That happens too. Those are a little bit harder to deal with, but I mean, at least they wouldn't be separating because it's one solid piece of maple that they just laid the frets into, and I've seen that done a lot. But this is a rosewood fingerboard, and they also come in ebony, etc. And of course, like I said, maple too, and other materials too. So it's a separational difference. You can tell, right? That's a separate piece of wood. But look for separations anywhere. And if there's anything gouged or jagged edgedy stepping up in the wood, I mean, I would probably walk away. I mean, that's not good, especially if you're looking at quality instruments like Fenders, Yamahas, Korgs. God, there's so damn many names out there, you know. You get the idea, like regular, normal, good brand names, right? So not the Walmart specials, right? So you got to look at that stuff. But I mean, if you don't have good frets, you haven't got a guitar. It's firewood, literally. Forget it. Don't even touch it unless you want to do the work. But look for those separations. Look to see anywhere on the back if this neck was ever broken anywhere, or if it's split anywhere, or it looks like it's been repaired, like somebody broke the headstock off, because that's happened apparently, I guess, on a lot of Gibsons, where the headstock's been known to, you know, break off right at the joint. Okay, those can be repaired, and the repair is almost always stronger than the original, which is kind of weird when you think about it, but it actually is. And sometimes these can be okay if the job was done properly by a professional. Okay, because some hack in his basement is not going to do a very good job, right? And I expect that everything be smooth, smooth, smooth. I don't want jagged friggin' neck. That's junk. Okay. The other thing is when you look into the body area in here, where the neck is to the body, if I see cracking going on, it could be the finish. It's hard to say, but it's not like this. They're going to let you take a piece of sandpaper and go, okay, it's actually fine. It's just paint. Okay, that's not going to happen. You got to be able to take the risk on that one, and you check either side on that one. And sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. I was looking at a guitar the other day, and it was just a cheapie, right? And I checked, you know, my first fret to my last fret, and I checked the distance height, and that looked fine. But so why was the action so friggin' high? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was like this, right? Well, then I look at the saddles, and it's like, okay, they're adjustable saddles, which you don't always get adjustable saddles because these ones are not, okay? But when you do, you know, you look at the heights, and you can usually tell, you know, if it's maybe somebody jacked up the action by the saddles too, right? And it's like, okay, well, the neck is set where it should be. The saddles seem to look about where they should be, so you can compare against other guitars in a pawn shop to see, you know, on something that's actually really good set up. Check under here, okay? Because if you've got a high spot, it's going to be back in here where that happens. And I found separation there. I can fit about 4 slices of paper there, easy, okay? Which means either somebody backed off on the screws, you know, on the back and a little bit on the front to allow the back to come up, which is retarded, okay? Or the guitar was dropped and it's got a break, okay? In which case, turning the screws down ain't gonna fix that. You're gonna have to do a whole complete strip down, you know, refill with, you know, even probably have to redowel it or something, glue them in good with some good glue, re-drill holes, and then we should be able to straighten it out. But is it worth doing that to a $50 guitar? Hell no! Okay, but if you want to, go ahead. So, you know, check your electronics. Make sure, you know, no static, okay? If there is a bit of static, pots can usually be cleaned. If you want to clean them, that's fine. I mean, you could have a great guitar and crappy pots. Who cares? What are pots worth? About 10 bucks a piece. Solder them in yourself. Boom, boom, boom. And you got yourself a great axe. But is it worth the money? If you can't do the work, no. If you can do the work, absolutely worth the money to replace a couple of pots. Maybe even if you have to replace the switch. But sometimes you can clean them, sometimes you can't. More often, you won't be able to clean them, okay? But you never know until you try. It's the only way you find out, right? But if you've got bad frets, that's where I walk away immediately. I mean, if you've got buzzing frets, dead frets, the thing is a piece of scrap, and you know, they still want a lot of money for those. You know, this thing, it turned out, I gave it a really good examination, and other than some dirt and crud I had to clean up, I mean, I knew I had to set the intonation, I knew I had to put on the proper gauge strings. I had a pretty good idea from looking at the nut that it had no damage. That was luck, okay, in itself. The frets looked really good. You know, I even scraped a little bit here. Yep, there's actually metal under there, okay. And I didn't feel any kind of pitting. I checked every single one out, you know, boom, 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 boom. Every string all the way down the neck, listening for dead spots and buzzes. You know, and the thing is too, with these fatter frets, you don't press hard, right? Just enough to make a good solid note is all you need. Otherwise you press any harder and it raises the pitch, knocks you out, and it's like, it sounds like it's out of tune. So you gotta know how to deal with a fat fret versus a skimpy, skinny fret. Skimpy, skinny frets, you can give them the death grip and not raise the pitch, okay? So, but they also wear out real fast compared to these. So anyway, but that's the basics. You know, strap locks, make sure that, you know, they're secure. But I mean, if you got a loose strap lock, who cares? Take it out, throw a toothpick down the hole, screw her back in, and it's good as new. You know, that sort of thing. You'll probably find on most pawn shop guitars, the intonation is whacked on them. But it's really easy to set the intonation. I have, Scott Groves has videos on it. I don't even remember if I've done a video yet on how to do that. I don't think I have. I know I've probably explained it. But if I don't have one, I'll check and I'll put one up. But there are a lot of guys on YouTube, period, that do have videos on how to set the intonation of your guitar. And I can tell you right now, Scott Groves has it licked when it comes to setting the intonation. You know, wearing the guitar around your body, okay, and setting it as you go. Bang on. Just wonderful, okay? And since I redid all my guitars that way, they stay in tune longer. They tune a lot better. You know, they are real sensitive, okay, but, you know, you get used to it. And, you know, once it's locked on, I mean, this guitar has been actually on and off the rack all day. And I've been doing some bending with it. And it might be out a little bit right now. Nope, not at all. And jack the sucker in, would you? I mean, seriously. You've got to know if the electronics works properly, if all your pickups are working properly. Jack in, right? So if you're going private, the guy has no amp, I'd be a little curious on that one. You might want to consider bringing your own amp with you, okay? Don't take a chance. You could get DOA, you could get a rat's nest nightmare, you know, or it could be none of the wires are hooked up inside because he couldn't figure out how to put it back together. Okay, and I've heard those stories before. You shouldn't have been in there if you didn't know how to do it in the first place, okay? So, anyways, bring an amp if you need to, and jack in, and make sure you're not buying a DOA. Same as the pawn shop, you know, I mean, you don't have to bring your own amp. They got tons of amps, so you get a pretty good idea of how it sounds. It's always going to sound different at your own house anyhow, because of just your room acoustics, but, you know, jack in, see what it sounds like, see if, you know, everything's good, you know, no static, like we were saying, and all that. Make sure all the switch positions work properly. And if you find bugs, tell them about it and say, hey, you know, you want to give me a discount? Okay? Because to do a lot of this maintenance on guitars is super, super simple, okay? Anybody can do it. It doesn't take a lot of know-how even to do some soldering if you had to replace a pot. But you know, you can get cheaper deals at pawn shops if you know how to pick the guitar apart properly and honestly. You know, like, let's face it, they're charging some big prices for some of their guitars, but if they expect to get anywhere close to the price, you know, even they should be doing a lot more thorough checkouts before they even take them in. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. But when you're going to talk to them about lowering the price, you got to tell them why you want it lower. You know, not just, can you do any better? Well, you know, I approach them like, can you do any better price on this? Because here's my issues with this guitar. I do like it, I would like to own it, okay, and it gets it out of your store, and I'm prepared to do it right now. This is what I'm offering you. Unless you have a counter offer, this is my offer, okay? And I might go up a little bit more if they don't like my offer, right? But I'm not going to rock bottom them and, you know, look at a $400 guitar and say, I'll give you $100. I mean, come on. Only a reject does that, okay? But on a $400 guitar, I'd say, well, you know what? How about 300 bucks? I mean, I got to replace the pots, probably. You know, if I clean them first, if it doesn't work, I'm going to be replacing, and it is a catch-22, you know. And pots, you know, I mean, they're like 10, 15 bucks a piece for decent pots, you know. If the knobs happen to be jammed on there, we don't know, you know, until we pull them. You know, the switch sounds pretty dirty and crusty. You know, it might be able to be cleaned, we don't know, but a new switch is probably going to be 25, 30 bucks, you know, type of thing. I mean, you know, come on, I mean, it is a used guitar and stuff. Now, I wouldn't even suggest even making an offer on something that has any bad frets, you know. And you can find some really good guitars in there, but you may not find anything that day. You know, there may be a lot of nice guitars in the pawn shop, but just none of them are your taste, you know. So then you're looking at private deals, same deal. You want to check it out real thoroughly, inspect it, everything we talked about, you know. And also research the guitar. Before you even go over and look at a guitar in a private deal, get the model number and serial number and everything off the guy. Just say, look, I want to do a bit of research on this first, and then I'll call you back, okay? Now, your research is going to determine whether you even bother to call them back or not, you know? Or you may call them back and say, okay, I want to come over and look at it. Don't even say a word about price over the phone. Don't even think about bargaining until you've actually seen it for yourself in real life. Because I'll tell you something, pictures are just pictures, okay? They can be doctored or they can be not doctored. Some people are very honest, but there are a lot of people who are not. So do your homework on the guitar before you even think about going over to see it, and make sure the guy also has an amplifier available for you to jack it into. If not, be prepared to bring your amp with you, okay? So, and if you're looking at used guitars by now, you've had a few brand new electrics, so you've got at least, you know, one portable amp, I'm sure, that you can bring with you to plug in and try it out, you know. And if the guy has any kind of issue with you even plugging it in, I would get that cleared up on the phone first, because that'll tell you right there if there's going to be a problem or not, if he has a problem with you jacking into it. So anyways, that's pretty much about it. So you know what? If you have any other questions, because I may have missed something or whatever, hey, feel free to ask, and I'll do the best I can to answer as always. You know, just be very careful on your purchases, no matter how you're going to do it, because, you know, it is your money, and you could lose your money as well, you know. And but especially if you don't know what you have to look for. And even guys, like I said, you've had 2, 3 guitars by now, brand new ones. Used ones are a whole new ball game to look into over new ones, and even brand new guitars. When I was looking at my Stratocaster that I bought the other day, I mean, I've been playing this thing on and off in the store for the last couple of months, you know, and hemming and hawing and, you know, type of thing. And there's a bit of a story behind that. You'll hear that when I do my actual review on it. But I don't regret the purchase, okay, one bit. But even I did a lot of research on this guitar before I bought it, because it's a lot of money. You know, music stores just don't really bargain. Their price is their price. You know, they don't like to bargain much, maybe 10 or 20 bucks, okay, depending on what it is. But I didn't bargain for $4.29. I'm not going to bargain. You know, and that was sale price. So anyway, even brand new guitars, I mean, I check them out, you know, boom, 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 boom. Because I expect that expensive guitars damn well better not be buzzing brand new, and better not have flat spots, okay? They better be done right, okay? Especially brand spanking new, you know, and same as checking your fret levels to see if you got any lifted frets. You don't look this way to check lifted frets, you look this way, more on top of it, to see if there's lifted frets. And lifted frets can be a problem, you know, so you may or may not want to deal with that for repairing it if there's any lifted frets that you notice by looking at the neck that way. And you know, there's got to be that natural bow in the neck. You know, it's got to have a natural bow to it. You know, just a little bit, but not a reverse bow, and you don't want the neck completely straight or over straight. The only time a neck ever is to be straight is when it's getting fret work done. Otherwise, nope, it's got to have a slight upward bow to it. So, anyways, feel free to ask, and I'll do the best I can to answer your questions. Catch you on the next video.